Week three is in the books of college football, and boy, oh boy, did we witness some amazing games. Hey everyone, welcome to College Football Time with Avery Miguel. I am Miguel Mike Medina, is my partner Avery Jones. Oh boy, Avery. The first one I want to get into because the crowd had me so hyped. It was a great game, amazing finish, and it's funny that the ACC laid down the hammer with fines, and that is Clemson versus Georgia Tech. That crowd was rocking, super rocking. And the way that ended that game, that gave me goosebumps watching how everybody stormed the field. But ACC fined Georgia Tech 50,000 for that. What are your thoughts about the game? Are we seeing the beginning of them for Clemson?
I agree with you. That was a great game. And I think we kind of mentioned this. Georgia Tech is this team in the ACC that they're kind of up and down. But yet when the time is just right, they can play spoiler. And what they pulled off, and here's the thing, the same thing happened to Florida State at the beginning of the season when they beat Alabama. They were fined, I think, either the same amount or $100,000. But here's the thing, college is an experience. And if you happen to be at a game where you see something historic, enjoy it. And not only did they storm the field, they took down the goalpost and threw it in the river. So, I mean, if that's not college tradition, that's something I can kind of get behind, not like vandalism, or starting a riot, but, good, enjoyment of something you've seen. So if I were any other teams in the ACC, I would be very careful of when Georgia Tech is on the schedule. But also, even if you're not playing Georgia Tech, you want to pay attention to who they're playing because I firmly see now Georgia Tech being in the top 25. If they crack the top 25, I will be happy because the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets have done something just in the early weeks of this season that are making everybody notice them. And I think it started at the end of last season with their game with Georgia. And I remember thinking then that I think everybody needs to pay attention to Georgia Tech. I think you do not need to sleep on Georgia Tech. And for the first 3 weeks of the season, Georgia Tech has played some really good football. So if you're playing Georgia Tech in the future, be careful. If you're not playing Georgia Tech but are in the ACC, you need to pay attention to them because this is the team that needs to not be slept on.
Georgia Tech is like that pesky team they gotta look out for. But and although I told you this before, Avery, I feel that field goals to end the game are so anticlimactic, but this one I give it a pass because look at the way how it was executed. The special teams rushed with less than 20 seconds to get in field goal position. And this gentleman, Aiden Beer, he'll never forget this moment for as long as he lives. He kicked a 55-yard field goal as time expired, which honestly, when it's field goals like that, I like it. How everything was so fast and how so um well prepared and executed they did it. And he went on to say this: we worked that situation a lot throughout camp and practice. Seeing the offense and the defense play so well, I didn't want to let them down. And he certainly didn't let them down. What a moment for this young man.
You're right. I mean, I've said this for the past couple of years since we've been doing this. I think since the inception we've been doing this. Hug your kickers. Hug your kickers. come on. I'm like, they are this one position player that when you need them to make that great play, or you need them because you didn't get that first down, or you weren't able to stop the clock, or you need them to get those points on the board. That's who you do. And it works both ways. If you're in depth and you have a great relationship with your kicker, you have it. But just like the young man said, if he's seeing that his teammates are giving it all, are giving their absolute all, he wants to be a part of that. And why not? And I'm not saying that kickers or special teams are not important to a team. Every person on a team is special and unique, and like anything, when you get called on, you don't want to let your teammates down. You don't want to let your brothers down. And on a particular side note, since we're talking about kickers, I generally don't do this. I generally don't do this. But folks, we also need a special side note for Brandon Aubrey of the Dallas Cowboys. What he did last night was also something that any kicker would definitely be inspired by when they need that field goal, when you need that walk-off field goal. So I firmly believe any kicker in college football, if anybody thought, oh yeah, you're just a kicker, no, you're special. You're special. You're talented in ways that a lot of people can't be. So definitely, definitely, two thumbs up.
Clemson, they will play another ACC matchup with Syracuse. As for Georgia Tech, they will play a non-conference game against Temple. So there's that. And moving on to the next one, Avery. Georgia versus Tennessee. This was, I will remember this game. When we go back into college football throwback, I will call this Stockton versus Aguilar shootout because those are literally a shootout between both quarterbacks. And let's be honest, Tennessee won the trade, the quarterback trade. And if you learn about Aguilar's journey to Tennessee, this guy, it's a beautiful story. Anyone that subscribes to ESPN College Football, go check out. It's like a 4 or 5 minute clip of Aguilar. His journey is unbelievable, and what he has done with Tennessee has been flat out sensational so far. But Tennessee, man, you had Georgia, you have Bulldogs 21-7. But I gotta give credit to a Bulldogs a lot of credit. They are still a team to be in the SEC. You do not want to sleep on Curry Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs. What a way. The level of resilience in that team is just flat out unbelievable. Go ahead.
I agree with you. Again, shout out to my friend Ben. He was at the game. I mean, to be part of possibly, aside from any potential playoff games, probably already the game of the year. And I know we kind of thought this was going to be a defensive game, but I will say this, with Joey Aguilar and coming to Tennessee and how he got to Tennessee, I know they lost, but in this weird way, I'm going to say Joey Aguilar won that game in a way. He won that game that if any volunteer fans had any doubts about Joey Aguilar, he proved himself. And I'd also say if there are any other doubters of Joey Aguilar, he has definitely proved himself. But let me tell you, Tennessee had this game in the bag. Tennessee had this game in the bag. They had college game day there. That crowd, them coming in knowing that, hey, if we can knock off Georgia, if we can knock off Georgia, they're going to show we're serious. Even though they lost in overtime, I believe Tennessee is a team like Georgia Tech. You're gonna have to be careful of. You're gonna have to be careful of. On the other side, the Georgia Bulldogs, I work with I work with a wonderful young woman named Dawn, Bulldogs fan. Hey, I completely agree with you. Kirby Smart is like a mad genius. Kirby Smart is a mad genius. On multiple occasions in probably the past 3 or 4 years, Georgia has been like in the top 10 and even at one point number one, and they were down and they came back and won. The most notable exception is Missouri. They had them on the ropes and they ended up losing. And then Missouri's season kind of took a nosedive. I don't want this to happen to Tennessee. I think Tennessee can take this lesson and say, okay, we had them. What did we do wrong? And they're going to fix it. And then on both sides, we're probably going to see Tennessee hopefully not flounder, but the SEC is the SEC for reasons, probably one of the most competitive conferences in college football. So Georgia, they're also going to take a look at this game and say, okay, we won, but what happened that we couldn't have control of that game? So literally, I think already week 3, we're looking at, aside from any potential playoff games, game of the year right here. Tip of the hat to both the Volunteers and the Bulldogs because this was absolutely a fabulous game that did not disappoint.
Another great game and another heartbreaker. Texas A&M versus Notre Dame. Notre Dame could have been 2-0, and now they are 0-2, and this is still a good team. But they have two back-to-back games that they were close. But this one stings more, and I feel so bad for that young man, that kicker, who missed the extra point. Um, I feel for him. I feel for him. That game should have gone to overtime. Texas A&M, they also a great start. Now everybody's asking the question, will Notre Dame still go to the playoffs if they win 10 straight? We shall see. I never want to count out Coach Freeman Notre Dame. That was a great game, but just a bitter taste to the way that game ended.
I agree with you. We said this game as an honorable mention in our preview, and the honorable mention is almost like we did the game of distrust, for how it turned out. But again, like I said, I mean, your kickers, I mean, pat on the back, how you doing, I'm like, you're my, it's amazing how even the little things, and we've been fans of football for a long time. We know a drop pass, a missed kick, a missed tackle, a fumble, anything can change the course of a game. But definitely giving it up to the Texas A&M Aggies. I mean, again, this is another team you can't just think they're either going to come in or you're going to go and play them and you cannot take them seriously. And I don't think that the Fighting Irish, disrespected the Aggies in any different way, but there was just something about the intensity that Texas A&M had that, for some reason, like Notre Dame couldn't play catch up enough, you know. And this like anything, certain games can be turning points for teams. This is now the turning point for Notre Dame. You know, we're asking, can they make the playoff? Well, you have to look at the rest of their schedule, But again, we've said it before, they're an independent team. So if they win the rest of the games, will it be enough? Will it be enough to get them in? But like anything, they're probably going to need a little help with other teams ahead of them, depending on where the rankings end up, So Notre Dame was 8th, I think. if they're still in the top 15, that might be a blessing. And then they just work their way back up and hope for any upsets in the future. But now I think, Texas A&M, you got a shot. Texas A&M, there's a shot. There's a boost in your ranking. Now you look at the rest of your schedule and say, okay, we're in the fast track now. How is this going to work for us? And they have no choice but to take advantage of it. Notre Dame, I agree with you. I can't. We said it a couple of weeks ago. Coach Freeman is just this likable coach. I want him to stand in front of his players and rally them, because no matter what you think about Notre Dame, this is a really good football team. This is a really good football team that I want to see play through the playoff. And if they play in a way that gets them back there, even if it's just like they just squeak in and they have to make that road back to a national championship, I'm there for it. I'm there for it. And we've said it many, many years doing this, and also as being fans of college football. I'm here for it. 3 weeks into college football, we have seen some really great games. And it's only going to get better now.
Well, Avery, it is controversial, but Notre Dame is in the top 25. They're number 24 right now. The only team in the top 25 without a victory. And many people are saying, like, wait a minute, like, why are they still ranked? But that's the situation. But Texas A&M, impressive. They're in the top 10 in the AP poll. Miami, they moved up from number 5 to number 4. LSU 3, Penn State 2, Ohio State 1. So there's that. And Oklahoma, number 11 on the poll, well deserved. They're now 3-0. John Mateer in that defense, um, just sensational. Another big, another game that it was an impressive victory. However, there are some concerns because of a Heisman Trophy candidate, and I'm talking about Vanderbilt. They beat South Carolina 31-7, but we are holding on our breaths, and hopefully everything is all right with Lenora Sellers. He left the game after he received a blow to the head, and he did not return. Excuse me. He left when Vanderbilt was winning 14-7. So the Gamecocks were still in it when he left. But after he left, it's like the energy just went out the stadium. And yeah, it is tough. That'll be a very big loss if they don't get him back before the season, because you saw the way he played last year. When we saw him play last year, it was like, this guy's gonna be a real deal next season if he keeps it up that way. So yeah, you just hate seeing that. With a phenomenal talent like Sellers.
Yeah, it was tough to see, and we know football is a collision sport. I hope all the best for him. As far as and one thing, we've seen what Vanderbilt can do in recent years. So knowing that Vanderbilt won, it kind of doesn't surprise me, but in a way, kind of the hit that the Gamecocks took, kind of worries me a bit. Definitely for South Carolina. But like anything, we hope for the best. This is another game that, if you looked on the schedule, if you're a fan of Vanderbilt, you're like, hey, don't count us out, which they didn't, you know. Um, so as for an honorable mention, this is a really great game. Yeah, the Gamecocks were still in it, but football, as much as we love it, we also have to worry about the young men playing it. And I hope everything works out. If it comes to the point where, stay in protocol, get healthy, let that be let that be the main thing, to be healthy. So while I am happy for Vanderbilt for the win, South Carolina had this really great offense that could surprise a lot of teams. So, I hope South Carolina can rally around each other. If it needs to be said that, gonna have to have another quarterback, we want to make sure that you're safe. I'm gonna bench you until we know you are perfectly healthy to continue. Let that be it. Let the team rally around you. Let the team rally around itself to continue this journey that early in the season right now, there's still some life in South Carolina. And when you have things happen like this, I think it could be advantageous for the Gamecocks to work in their favor. But you hate to see it, but like anything, I always hope for the best whenever I'm watching college football or pro football, that these young men, make it home.
That's the mentality that South Carolina gotta have, the next man up mentality when something like this happens. But we wish Sellers all the best, and yeah, it is just tough. But hope for the best for Sellers, and hopefully things turn out to be all right for him. South Carolina got to move forward now, and whether they have him or not, like I said, they're gonna have a next man mentality, and use Seller as a motivating factor going forward for the rest of the season. Now, LSU, they beat Florida Gators 20-10. But what makes me laugh about this is the post-game interview. Brian Kelly brought the house down on that journalist. The very first question that he came up with was about discussing, asking about the LSU's offense, when clearly defense has been the bread and butter for them this season, especially in this game. And Brian Kelly, he was like, not on my watch. And he shredded him. Like, really, that's gonna be your first question? So, and obviously, you're gonna have some people that they will say, well, he's being rude, he's being harsh. But the reality is that not all the time the player and the coach is in the wrong. You have some media folks that they will literally ask the dumbest questions, and I've seen them many times. And that was, if it was like a follow-up or, but the very first question has to do with the offense. Like, no, like LSU's defense was big time in this game. So I don't blame Brian Kelly for reacting the way he did.
I I agree with you. Brian Kelly is an interesting head coach, but I will say this: no matter where he's coached, he loves his players. He loves his players like, they are his own flesh and blood. So he's going to stick up for them, no matter what you can say. But also, if players are in the wrong, he's going to pull them off to the side and say, "Hey, no, this is not what we do. This is not what we do." So I did see that. I kind of I felt bad for the report for maybe like a little bit, and then I said, you know what? No, 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 you brought that on yourself. So I I I wasn't I thought the game would be, I think we said the game was going to be like low scoring. I was kind of hoping for a higher scoring game. Um if you're the Florida Gators, you have a problem. And I don't think the entire problem that everybody wants to say is Billy Napier. You have an offense problem. You have an offense problem, and it needs to be looked at. It needs to be looked at. And by looking at, it's probably going to be looking at your offensive coordinator. for that respect. So again, Florida needs to get back in the study room, look at film, look at their schedule. You had momentum and you have now lost it. And unlike Notre Dame, you're crawling out of the SEC. And every other team in the SEC is now looking at you like, we're going to have Gator for lunch. So the Gators definitely need to do a reset. And I don't think it has to all be in the point of, oh, you got to fire the head coach. And that's no, the purpose of it is going to start with the team. And they're going to look at each other and say, okay, what do we need to do? Offense is going to look at each other and say, what are we going to need to do? The defense is going to look at each other and say, what do we need to do? And the coaches are going to rally these young men, and they're going to need to figure out how to come together as a unit and play these games. And at this point, it's just now one game at a time for Florida. And looking at their schedule, they probably could have some bright spots. The problem is you're looking at Miami in a couple of weeks. I don't know how that's going to work for you. But if it works in a way that you see the spark return in the Gators, then that could be the first step of moving forward to salvaging what looked to be a very promising season. And we just have to wait and see. We just have to wait and see. But LSU, once again, I mean, like, what do you have to say? You're right. Their defense is top tier. Their defense is literally top tier right now. I now feel sorry for any team that's getting ready to play LSU.
Fear them Tigers, fear them Tigers. Other scores: Penn State dominates Villanova, 52-6. Missouri wins 52-10 over Louisiana. Texas 127-10. Ohio State 37-6. Illinois 35-zip. The Hurricanes dominate South Florida 49-12. Ole Miss over at Arkansas, another one, 41-35. Michigan, they look great. I feel like the way Michigan played, if they could play like that consistently, then they will be the talk of the town this year. Um, a lot of people are saying that the head coach getting suspended is turning out to be a blessing in disguise for the Wolverines, but hey, that's people's opinion. USC beat Purdue 33-17. Oregon beat Northwestern 34-14. And that one was a special victory because, as we know, Charlie Kirk, he was a passionate Oregon Ducks fan. So this was an emotional victory for them. Yep, yep. And in the
Um,
end, go ahead.
yeah, sorry about that. I wanted to give an honorable mention to the Pittsburgh, the Pitt University of Virginia game. I That was like playoff football at its finest, I think. Pitt and West Virginia have this unique rivalry. Not that much distance between the schools. I kind of have a soft spot for West Virginia because I have a friend who went to West Virginia. Her and her husband, they live and breathe Mountaineers. And also as a music fan, I mean, the freaking song is John Denver, take me home country roads, so every win they're belting that out. And it just worked in their favor. But as the Mountaineers won, hit the music, we're gone. I think that was a very good game by the Mountaineers. So again, look for the Mountaineers because they like to play spoiler too. They like to play spoiler too during the season.
Yes, indeed. I'm glad you brought that up because that was another terrific game that we witnessed on week 3. But guys, that does it for today's recap reaction for week 3. Stay tuned for Thursday or Friday as we give our week 4 previews and predictions. And we love sports. We love sports. So it's a blessing. And Avery, since this is our 4th year of college football time, I don't know, this came to me this morning and I had to share with you. If we keep this momentum, like we at some point, we have to take this show to another level. Like every year we trying to get better, but I feel like, and I have a close friend of mine who had told me like, yo, you guys work so well together. Um, keep it up. And I don't know who else is tuning in to college football time, but I feel like the more we do this, the more motivated I get to the point where if it gets to a point that we make money off of this in the future, oh, that will be the ultimate goal. But we have so much momentum going on. But hey, in the meantime, we're having fun, we're passionate, we love doing this. And it's sports, it's college sports though. And we're doing it, our way, and that's freedom, and that's the goal right there.
You know what? I kind of had that thought again when we started again, this year, possibly, like everyone, we want to get better, we want to bring more to the table. Road trip, maybe, in the future, as far as, college football time, we can take a page out of, our mentors over at ESPN and College Game Day, possibly one day, doing a preview show on the road. But again, Miguel, I completely agree with you. I'm so completely blessed with this opportunity. I'm glad you reached out. I'm glad you decided to take a chance on me, just because like I said, I love sports, definitely love college football. I tell my friends every year, do not ask me to do anything on Saturdays. Do not ask me to do anything on Saturdays because and interesting, my weekend started off kind of iffy, with some car trouble, but luckily I was back home for kickoff and what we saw Saturday, is kind of proof, even if the day doesn't start, all that well, it can also end very well, as long as you don't let it get to you. But I am absolutely in awe that we can do this. And hopefully we continue to grow, not only as people, not only as podcasters and content creators, but we can see not only our growth, but also the growth of college football. And I'm glad that we're a part of it.
Yes, for sure. And it all began in sports broadcasting course at Sports Worldwide Management. And that's what it's all about. You have to take advantage of every opportunity, every networking, every person, whether it's a class or meeting, where you never know what an opportunity can lead. And I try to tell people that don't be so money hungry driven person. Focus on the relationship first. And then, slowly all that things will come. And, I'm grateful that we met and man, 2021 compared to now, time has flown by like crazy. But everyone, thank you for tuning in. I'm looking forward to week 4. Unbelievable that we're heading to week 4 already of college football. And I'll see you guys on Thursday or Friday.
Have a great week, everyone.